unto us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessary things. Now, and I'm assuming that it probably would be good to note that it's not just their word they're saying. They're saying the Holy Ghost.
The Holy Ghost
So
is pleased with this.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So there's the affirmation that this is okay. Verse 29, that ye abstain from meats offered to idols, and from blood, from things strangled, and from fornication, from which if ye keep yourselves, you shall do well, fare ye well. So now, I mean, I don't know how you can miss that. I mean, they're just saying, listen, you'll be all right if you'll just do these.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right.
Well,
a lot missing from sermons that I've heard.
Boy, I'm telling you what's the truth. I mean,
You better not go here. You better not do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's constant.
I'm not taking away from it. There's some legitimate things that preachers preach. Yes. I'm not saying that, but it's pretty obvious here that these are the essential things. The rest you'll figure out.
Right. And it's affirmed by the Holy Ghost, right. They say. Mm-hmm. So
the rest you'll figure out through the synagogues and those that preach Moses.
Yeah. Man, it'd be good if we could get back to this.
Yeah,
and just let's give these young converts a little time to disciple them. Give them a little bit of milk to kind of get them standing on their own before we cook up this 20-ounce steak and try to shove it down. Try to shove it down their throat.
Yeah.
Okay, now verse 30. So when they were dissembled, they came to Antioch, and when they had gathered the multitude together, they delivered the epistle. So they came, they give this epistle to these Gentiles, which when they had read, they rejoiced for the consolation. Now, if I'm understanding this right, I imagine that these Gentiles were to the point that they were actually starting to kind of turn down. I mean, they were, what are we going to do? Do we need to do this? Do we not? I mean, they were confused to the point, and I know the Scripture don't say this, but this is something that I see in today's era, where you get so overwhelmed and so confused by the tennis ball thing. That then the adversary starts causing your mind to go to this place of, well, what's the use? I mean, I came over here for rest. Jesus said, "In me you find rest." Well, I'm doing more wrestling over here than I did there. So you see this this kind of war thing I do going on maybe in their mind like it is today, and they get this letter and understand this, and then they write and they say in verse 31, and they rejoiced for the consolation. So it's like they were relieved. They realized, okay, so we are Christian. Let's go from here.
Right.
So a little bit of discipleship, give them some comfort.
That's exactly right. Very good.
All right, you got something?
No, sir.
All right. And Judas and Silas, being prophets also themselves, exhorted the brethren with many words and confirmed them. So in my mind, I'm imagining them, they're actually not standing and telling them all the things that they're doing that's separating them from God, but they're actually trying to point out the things that they're doing that is good and shows that they have a change. Because, he says that they confirmed them. Right. So they went to them and they began to exhort them and confirm them. So basically, what I'm seeing here is they see these people as being down. And rather than going by and just dropping them off and saying, okay, well, they probably never got it, and in face of Christians, the Spirit showed them and it lifted them up, and all the things we hear now, they went in and actually tried to look and find the things positive in their life that they could build on to kind of build their faith up and get them to understand that the Spirit of God was in them. So let's start there and build. And they kind of give them a hand and sort of lifted them up and carried them.
That's right.
You got something?
Yeah, sure do. Now, we see them called, Judas and Silas is called prophets here. That's interesting. You know,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they're called prophets here. And so, what are we to make of that? I mean, are they foretelling the future?
They're preaching.
No, they're preaching. A prophet is someone who is in the role of being God's mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so whether we call that preachers, whether we call it prophets, if you'll notice over in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, Paul talks about the prophets. You know, and those who are in the church service that prophesy. They're considered prophets. You never see him talking about preachers there.
Right.
Why is that? Because a preacher is a prophet.
Right.
He's talking about preachers, prophets. The words are interchangeable here. Those who speak for God are prophets.
Right.
And today, if a preacher is preaching and being the spokesman for God, he's prophesying. He's a prophet.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Right. Well, now that we're trekking on that, what do we do with over there? Where is it? About chapter 6. And they're about chapter 6 about the head covered and the head uncovered.
Yeah.
I mean, you know where I'm talking.
I am. Yeah, that's 1 Corinthians chapter 11. I think.
Okay, 11.
Head
So I'm
covering chapter. Yeah.
Is he saying that that women? I mean, didn't he say if they prophesy or pray with their head uncovered, that they was ashamed to their head, and of course then the men.
Yeah. The focus of that chapter is, or that portion of the chapter is the head coverings, but what's nestled in there is woman who prayeth or prophesieth.
Right.
So what is a woman doing when she's prophesying?
Well, I think it's safe to say she's been a mouthpiece. I mean,
how can you deny that?
I mean,
all right, so go over to Acts chapter 2. All right, and so Peter is preaching to the crowd, and he recites Joel chapter 2. And this is the day that Joel the prophet spoke of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, God said, I will pour out of my flesh, my spirit upon all flesh. That's what he said.
Right, yes.
I'll pour out of my spirit upon all flesh.
Right.
Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Now, if that means something else, I'm all ears, but
right.
What can you call that? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I'm not an advocate for anything but truth.
Right.
And so whatever that means, that's what it means.
Right. Well, and
so if a woman is God's mouthpiece, what's she doing?
Unless there's different meanings, and I'm with you. I mean, I'm not. Well, I mean, I guess maybe I am just opening up a can of worms tonight.
Boy, you are.
Yeah,
you really are.
But well, and you know, sometimes we're never going to find truth unless we're willing to offend.
Right.
And I hate saying that way, because I mean, I know that just sounds awful, but you know, I mean, we have to ask ourselves right here. You know, they are exhorting and expounding at some way or another about salvation to these people.
Why would that be limited to anybody?
Right.
Why would God limit anybody to do that?
Well,
if the situation comes about that somebody needs to know about Jesus Christ, is a woman supposed to jump back and say, "Oh, wait a minute, I can't do that. Let me see if I can find my husband or something."
Right.
No, she is to expound the gospel, to, you know, whatever. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
yes, I do.
I just don't think God is exclusionary on that.
Right.
You know, when it comes to his gospel, when he says he's poured out his spirit on all flesh, sons and daughters shall prophesy. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what he means.
Well, and you know, and I, you know, unless there is a different prophet here from Joel and what Paul's saying over there in 1 Corinthians 11, you know, unless that word has two different meanings.
Right.
And of course now, you know, and I'm, again, I know, you know, to me, all things should be done decently and in order.
Absolutely.
And I think, that should be common knowledge among us.
Yeah.
And I have seen things that I certainly did not feel like was decently and in order.
Absolutely.
And with that, I'll just go ahead, since I'm batting 1,000 tonight, and pitch this one out there. A woman, up and jumping and going on, and her dress, coming up and all. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of thing is not of God.
Well, 1 Corinthians 14 says the spirit of the prophet is subject unto the prophet.
Right.
That means you have control of yourself.
You have control of that.
All times.
Exactly. So, with that being said, I agree with you. Scripturally looking, could I forbid a woman
to expound the gospel to someone? No.
Absolutely not. I couldn't.
I couldn't either.
I mean that.
Now we can't ignore the other parts of the scripture here. In 1 Corinthians chapter 14, it tells a woman she's to learn in silence. Is that right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
All right. It's not permitted to her to speak.
Right.
Now I can't tell you what that means.
Right.
If it means what it sounds like, well, then we've got some contradictions here we got to deal with.
Right.
I think that there is something culturally sensitive here that has something to do with what women are bringing into the church that should not be there.
Right.
I think there's something there, because in two places that we see this over in Corinthians, and we also see this over in Timothy, 1 Timothy. And both of these cultures, one is in Corinth, one is in Ephesus. That's where Timothy's at. He's the pastor of the church over here in Ephesus.
Yes.
Well, both of these cultures have this huge cult of Diana and Aphrodite.
Yes, which is two female goddesses.
Women-based gods.
Yes.
So I feel like there's something going on in the background there that we don't understand, because there's too many scriptures that tell us that. Well, let me give you another example. All right. So Paul says over in Timothy, I suffer a woman not to teach or assert authority over the man. Mm-hmm. Now, that's where we get today that a woman should not teach Sunday school over the adult class. She's to teach children. And I get that. I understand that.
Right.
But we can't ignore what we see with who is that? The two that the two that taught.
Yes. They actually.
I'm just going to find
taught
it right
Paul.
here.
It was
Priscilla and
Aquila.
Right?
Yes.
So we're going to find it over in chapter 18, and what we're going to find here is. Let me just read it. A certain Jew named Apollos, born at Alexandria, an eloquent man and a mighty in the scriptures, came to Ephesus. This man was instructed in the way of the Lord, and being fervent in the Spirit, he spake and taught diligently the things of the Lord, knowing only the baptism of John. So here's a man who knows part of the gospel, but he don't know it all. He's not complete. And he began to speak boldly in the synagogue, whom when Aquila and Priscilla had heard, they, plural, took him unto them and expounded unto him the way of God more perfectly. So you have this husband and wife team who both expound the word of God to Apollos, a man.
Right. And
well, now, so the question is she asserting authority over this man? Well, the authority that she would speak from would be from the scriptures. So herself, no, she's not asserting authority. When the preacher gets up and preaches to me on Sunday, he's not speaking on his authority.
Right. He's speaking on God's.
On God's authority.
Right.
How many times have I heard him say, well, don't blame me. That's what the book says.
Right.
Well, that's deflecting blame. He's saying, it's not me, it's the book. Well, that's where his authority comes from, is this book.
Right.
So it's not his authority, it's the book.
Yes.
So how do I view that? I don't know what Paul's talking about here.
Right.
I'll be honest. Over in 1 Timothy, I don't know exactly what he means when he says, "I suffer a woman not to teach a man or assert authority."
Right.
I mean, that sounds pretty rock solid until we see other verses here. Well, what that tells me is there's no contradictions in this book, so I'm missing something.
There's something that's missing.
Yeah.
So, and I think you're trekking along the right lines because, I'm with you. So, I know both those places that was mentioned were places that were very notorious for having a goddess that they worshiped.
Right.
And so, and that's...
look, I can understand anybody coming down on anywhere on this. Right. I can understand those that say, nope, Paul meant what he said over there. But I can also see people saying, well, now, wait a minute, what about this? Mm-hmm. But all I would say is look at all the scriptures. Right. Totally.
Yes, and be careful about locking down on something to the point that we're willing to
hurt people.
Right. Destroy rather than build up.
Yeah.
And I think I've shared this with you, and I heard a preacher say this a while back. He said, anything, if you want to know if it's from the Lord or not, he said, here is a good barometer to measure it by. He said, ask yourself, is this giving life or is this bringing death?
Well, that's exactly where I was going. That's good. That's good right there.
Because it's need. That means it's needful.
Who was that? Who was the high priest at the time? Who was the voice of reason?
No.
Gamaliel.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. So he approaches this in a very common sense way. Mm-hmm. He says, if it be of God, it will prosper, and we can't do anything about it. Yes. But if it's not of God, it will fall flat on its face eventually. Well, that's how you have to look at a lot of these issues. If it's not of God, it's not going to prosper. It's not,
You're exactly right.
It's not going to prosper in the gospel.
And I think sometimes the reason that we have to be so quick to draw divided lines is because for whatever reason we've convinced ourselves that we're the authority.
Right.
And what I'm saying is we're being lords over God's kingdom.
Yeah, we've got the lock on the truth, and nobody else has a right to even talk about it.
Exactly. And from that spot, am I building the kingdom of God, or am I trying to build my own kingdom?
Yeah.
So and again, I agree with you. I'm not going to throw stones at either side, but at the same time, I would say it would probably pay us before we just grab hold and lock down on anything to make sure that we understand everything about it.
Let's consider the whole counsel of God before we lock down.
Right.
I agree.
Yes. Very, very good. And I'm going to do my best not to take you down another rabbit hole. Okay, you got anything else?
No, sir, go right ahead.
All right, verse 33. And after they had tarried there a space, they were let go in peace from the brethren unto the apostles. And so they stayed around and discipled. Is basically what they're saying they done. They just discipled these people here at Antioch, was it? Mm-hmm. And trying to just kind of trying to get them on their feet. And again, I think it's good to note how much we're seeing this apostleship here.
Right.
In verse 34, notwithstanding, it pleased Silas to abide there still. And so, even after they discipled for a time, Silas was saying, okay, I'll stay here and disciple them a little more. Mm-hmm. In verse 35, Paul also and Barnabas continued in Antioch, teaching and preaching the word of the Lord with many others also. So here again, we're seeing this discipleship here in Antioch. Mm-hmm. They're taking a little time, to try to kind of help these young converts and get them started. You got anything?
No, sir.
Verse 36, and some days after, Paul said unto Barnabas, let us go again and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Lord and see how they do. So now Paul has decided, he goes to Barnabas and says, hey, listen, I feel like these are okay here. Let's you go back and some of these places that we've made these sacrifices and we've done this stuff, let's go back and check on them.
What we're seeing here is a picture of Paul's zeal.
Yeah,
we're seeing our really first glimpse of New Testament zeal that
Yes,
Paul has.
yes. These are
with the
good. Let's
gospel.
go back to the others
Yeah.
and check on them.
Yeah.
We can't let our roots bury too deep anywhere because we could neglect a need somewhere
Yeah,
else.
he's
So,
ready to
yes.
go.
Ready to go.
Go.
Yeah, exactly. So, in verse 36, and some days after Paul, verse 37, I'm sorry. And Barnabas determined to take with them John, whose surname was Mark. Now this, if we go back just a few chapters, and you'll remember, they were under the pressure of these Jews coming in, and man, I mean, they were really putting the pressure on, and of course, and we kind of talked about it a little bit. I sort of wondered if maybe, and I'm not saying that I'm right, but I sort of wondered if maybe that pressure or fear of those Jews may have been why John Mark left. But for whatever reason, John Mark separated from them. But, Paul and Barnabas, they just kept going. They weren't about to let anything hinder them. So now Barnabas is saying, okay, yeah, let's do this, but let's go get John Mark and take him with us. In verse 38, but Paul thought not good to take him with them, who departed from them from Pamphylia, which is where they were, and went not with them to the work. So if you remember, when they were in Pamphylia is when it started coming, and they still had, and I don't remember, it's like 3 cities or 4 that they were going to go through. And this zeal's kicking in here now.
Yeah.
And we're seeing Paul saying, hey, hold on now. Wait a minute, he left us and didn't go with us.
Right.
So, I just don't think it's good that he go back through and get to reap the fruit of going to these churches now that we've gotten them started.
Yeah.
So now that we took the risk, Paul's just saying, hey, I just don't think that, he didn't go the first time. So, yes, we're starting to see this zeal Paul had that it's starting to show itself. You got something?
No, sir.
Verse 39, and the contention was so sharp between them that they departed asunder one from another. And so Barnabas took Mark and sailed into Cyprus. And Paul chose Silas and departed, being recommended by the brethren unto the grace of God. And he went through Syria and Cilicia, confirming the churches. So now, what I'm gathering here is that, Barnabas was set on taking them, and, taking John Mark. And he was saying, for however the conversation went, but Paul was determined. Hey, listen, he did not.
He ain't slowing me down.
No. I
think that's what he's saying.
And it could be.
I'm reading into that a little bit, but I think that's kind of what he's saying. He's not going to slow me down.
Right. And that could be it. But for whatever reason.
Now, it's good to understand here when he says they departed asunder. Now, if I remember that definition correctly, I looked that up years ago, violently. That's what asunder means, violently. And so it's like a volcanic eruption here between the brethren. Yeah. And so, and I think it's due, like you said, to Paul's zeal. I think we see a Paul that's ready to work. He knows what God has given him to do, and he's not letting no grass grow under his feet. And he's not about to let somebody go along with him that's not somewhat as zealous as he.
And
not willing to go that extra mile.
And I think that's kind of where he's going. When John Mark, and that's sort of what makes me think, well, would it be a fear of these Jews? And
could be.
And again, we know Paul. Paul is, one of them that it's obvious by, the chapter or 2 before where, they stoned him outside the city and left him dead. And Paul, they gather around him and pray. Paul stands up and goes right back in there where they just took him out and stoned. So it's obvious that Paul has no fear. He's one of them that swing over hell on a rotten grapevine with a water pistol in his hand and holler boo at the devil. So, and I think that's kind of the driver here. I think Paul's the same one. Now listen, dude, if you were scared the first time, dude, we get down here and this persecution rises again, you're just going to uproot. And he tells Bart, he said, no, he's not going with us.
That's
absolutely not.
That's right.
And then again, it may be that when they got down there, Mark was dragging his feet and wanting to, kicked back in the synagogue an extra day or two, and Paul said, no, we got God. But whatever it was, that zeal in Paul.
Now, when I look at this, now I might be wrong about this, and I know I'm reading into this a little bit, but when I imagine the conversation between these two, I just kind of see, it says the contention was sharp.
Right.
And they left violently from one another.
Right.
Okay? So I imagine in this, maybe some things were said or something done that maybe was not exactly what it should. The flesh has risen up, okay, in both of these men, I believe. Okay.
Sure.
Now, and I'm making a stretch here, and I'm just throwing this out as a possibility, that I think it's possible that this is the thorn in the flesh that Paul talks about over in Corinthians. 2 Corinthians, am I right? Mm-hmm. All right, so he mentions this thorn in the flesh, and everybody's guessing what it is. Some folks say eyesight, some say, the memory of what happened, what he did to the... And it's possible, any of those things are possible. But in my mind, I kind of look at a person with this kind of zeal.
If you
stand in his way, he's going to be bulldozing you, right? And so in that, sometimes you say things that you don't really mean, and once you cool down, you're like, man, I shouldn't have said that. Right. And I think it's, along with this zeal comes a level of anxiety, if you will.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at the description of what Paul's talking about over there, he describes it as a messenger of Satan that buffet me. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's eyesight, is Satan striking him with blindness?
Right.
I don't
and then
think
giving him
so.
his sight back. I mean, this is something that comes and goes.
Right. And so, and then God says, my grace is sufficient for thee.
Right.
So if it's eyesight that's the issue, then why does God's grace come into the picture? So I kind of reject that in my own mind anyway.
Well,
and there's that other train of thought that says, well, it's Paul remembering the things he did to the church. Well, that's possible, but it's
cast in the sea of forgetfulness.
Yeah. Again, he often talks about forgetting those things which are behind me.
Yes. And
Paul seems to be pretty settled in the fact that what he did out of ignorance. Okay, and so he's okay with that. That's dead now. And so that doesn't seem to be, to me, so prevalent in his life that would be the thorn in his flesh.
Right.
This, to me, seems to be something that's way more plausible in my mind.
Right.
Anyway, because, it fits every part of it. The messenger of Satan buffet me. What this means is, I don't want to talk like that. I don't want to get out of the way, but it just seems like whatever it is comes over me and I can't help myself, and we know that's from Satan, okay?
Right.
And so that kind of fits that bill, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, God's grace is sufficient. He's saying, look, you do what you do, Paul. You just keep going. I picked you because of that zeal. I know with that comes along shortcomings.
Right.
I know that. But the big picture is you're my chosen vessel to take this word to the Gentiles. You take it to the Gentiles, let me worry about that.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that kind of seems to me to fit the bill.
Yes, I agree.
At least as a possibility.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I think, we will both agree, and again, and I've heard that, and that whole eyesight thing comes from, when Paul makes the statement there in Galatia, and he says, he said, there was a time that you would have plucked out your own eye and give it to me. Paul wasn't saying that he needed an eye. He was telling them, there was a time that you were so dedicated to me that if I didn't have but one eye, you would have plucked yours out and give it to me.
Today, that phrase would be, you'd give me the shirt off your back.
Give me the shirt off your back.
Now, we know that's not literal, but that's symbolic of you do anything for me.
Right. And
I think that's what he was doing.
And it was, because he says, now, you've turned against me over the truth. That's what he goes on and basically says. So, and you brought up a very good point. And it's very easy to see that zeal. And we've met individuals that has that zeal, and I know in my mind right now, I know of one that's that way, and I've heard people say he's like a bull in a china shop. He just, and
if you get in his way, you have just become the adversary.
Yes, and buddy, he don't care to drop the hammer on you. So so I could see that. I very well could see that. And I would imagine if we talked to Barnabas and John Mark, they would say, yeah, he definitely he is Paul.
Well, let's just hang in there, and maybe one of these days we'll get to ask him.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well,
all right.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I know.
Yeah, buddy.
I took us down a few rabbit holes.
Oh, that's good. Good. A lot of pay dirt here.
Yeah, and if the right people's listening,
we'll be in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to come across as coming from a place that I just want to make me right to make everybody, because that's not at all what I want. But at the same time, there's a place that we have to understand that the same measure of judgment that we measure out could be measured back to us. Right. It's and I'll say again, a lot of this stuff that a lot of teenagers do now, I think as negative on it as anybody else.
Yeah.
But my opinion of it has absolutely nothing at all to do with whether or not the salvation of God is in them or could be in them.
Amen.
So that's where my issue comes in at. Don't take something that just because I don't like it because of the way I was raised or my tradition. Don't let that become the gospel and me destroy a young convert just because it's something that I don't approve of, or right. I don't like, or I don't think it looks good, whatever that may be. Let's try to look through the eyes of Jesus and see and understand that individual, they've got a soul that Jesus saw enough value in that he paid the same price for them as he did for me and you.
Amen.
And approach them in that manner, not to tear them down, but to give them strength and help them to see that maybe some of the things that you're doing is coming from a place of you're looking for something that you're not going to find in the things you're doing. Mm-hmm. You're only going to find it in Him. So let's get you to see clearly who you are in Him, and then you actually see your value, and a lot of that stuff will just, like you say, it just starts to fall off, from simply from the fact of understanding this is who I am, not what I thought I was. Mm-hmm. And there's a benefit to that.
Yeah, that's really good. All right, well, I appreciate all the input there tonight, Brother Dwayne. Well, it would be impossible to do that without you.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do have an ability to take us down a few rabbit holes.
All right, well.
Hit the like, the subscribe, and share, all those things. Get it out to as many people as you can.
Yep, and join us next time. We'll be in chapter 16 of Acts. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Over and out. Good night.